Right, welcome to this week's edition of the Old Paratrooper podcast. And I am joined today by former paratrooper, former mixed martial artist, former actor and TV reality star, Mr. Alex Reid. How you doing, pal? All right?
Well, there's a couple of things that you've just got wrong. I'm not former.
Already?
I'm still an actor. I'm still a darling. In fact, I've always been a darling. I acted as a paratrooper once upon a time. That's why I've decided to represent. Yes.
Good man. Good
And
man.
I'm
I
very
like
proud that I'm speaking to an old... Are you not old? How old are you?
44.
Are you ancient? I'll be 44 in a couple of years.
Yeah, you wish. You wish. You do look very well, though, mate. You do look very well, and it's good to see you, hopefully, in a good place. 49.
Bugger.
Yeah. I've done my research.
That's right.
I've done my research.
So, you're the old paratrooper. Tell me about... This is the one reason why I'm here. In fact, actually, there's two reasons. I know you reached out to me. The fact that you're a paratrooper, obviously, and I'm an ex-paratrooper, and my Sergeant Major said you should go on the Old Paratroopers podcast. So here I am.
Good stuff, mate. Well, I'm glad you took his advice.
What's your para-reg background?
So I served from 97 to 2004 with two para.
Where were you based?
I was in Aldershot for about 2 years, and then we kind of the whole 5th Airborne became 16 Air Assault, and it moved to Colchester. I was at Colchester for the remaining 7 years.
Did you? I mean, I'm in Aldershot now. I've moved back to Aldershot. I love Aldershot. How long were you in Aldershot for?
So about 2 years. Come out of depot, then went down to the shop. I'm from Nottingham originally. Yeah, I live in Nottingham now. North. Yeah, I live literally right next to the major oak tree and Sherwood Forest in the country park.
So I imagine Aldershot doesn't have the same nostalgia for you. Born and bred, Aldershot is home of the Parachute Regiment. Well, it still is to me, although they've moved out. It's moved to Colchester. But I've been to Colchester. When I was in the T, I left in 98. I was in 93 to 98, 10 para, 10 support company. I was Milan anti-tanks and assault pioneers. And I was pretty much going to the TA centre every day. And the Sergeant Major, who was ex-3 para and 2 para, he told me to come on your podcast. He'd send me off to Colchester all the time from Aldershot, so I'd always drive up there. And that's now the home of the Parachute Regiment, right?
Yeah, it is. But again, for a lot of the older generation that spent most of their careers in Aldershot, that is their home. But for me, I have more affiliation really with Colchester because I spent a lot of time
Where's
there.
Airborne Force? Do you have Airborne Forces Day up there?
Yeah, well, they still have Airborne Forces Day in Colchester. They have Airborne Forces Day in the shot as well. I think it's big at both.
Yeah.
And then obviously guys kind of meet up for reunions in Blackpool kind of once a year and stuff like that. There is one in March next year.
More people come to the shot rather than Colchester because the older boys. I've never been to an Airborne Forces in Colchester. I used to do the door in Aldershot many years ago before I was a paratrooper. Around the same sort of time, because obviously I was TA. So that was interesting. When the paras left, we had all these other regiments coming. They had like a chip on their shoulder, and the paras kind of policed Aldershot. It was considered one of the roughest towns in the country. I really didn't see that. I thought it was policed by this really mighty regiment, and it was like respectful. When all these new regiments came in, there was fights every weekend between gypsies and the different regiments that were there trying to prove how tough they were. I was like, oh God.
I can quite believe it, mate.
What's Colchester like on a weekend?
No, Colchester, well, obviously we're going back a few years, but it was cracking. But it was a shock for us because we grew up in Aldershot. And there is a few bars and pubs and stuff in Aldershot, but we got to Colchester and we were like, wow, there's pubs, clubs, bars everywhere.
Really?
And, for like, as a young paratrooper, it was like, because it's like a bit of a university town, city, so it's got a lot of people and a lot of nightlife. So it was a shock. And we were banned from everywhere within sort of 2 weeks. You know what I mean? That was just for scrapping and whatever. But crime went down, like you just said about Aldershot. The crime went down quite considerably.
There's 1, 2, and 3 para, the main battalions of the Parachute Regiment. For those who are non-army, they're the main regular. But now, I believe 2 and 3 para, and 1 para are now special forces.
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah. So one para, they're kind of special forces support group. So there's a company of Royal Marines, the whole of one para, and then a company from the RAF regiment.
How does that work?
That they kind of. Well, they just, yeah. Well, I don't think they work massively close together. I mean, I could be wrong, but they do kind of have their thing. But they took a whole battalion of the parachute regiment. Can't even remember when it's set up. I think it was like sort of mid 2000s, sort of the real kickoff of Afghanistan. I think it come about after. You might remember in 2000 when Sierra Leone kicked off, because I went to Sierra Leone with two para,
I did.
attached to one para, and then one para basically supported Hereford in that raid that they did to rescue those 5 hostages.
Yeah, I do remember that. Were you involved in that?
No, we were out there just before in Sierra Leone before that kind of happened. Yeah, it kind of they were that impressed by one para that they said, "Right, you come and sort of work with us," and then they set up special forces support group.
So 1 para are special forces support group. What's the difference that 1 para do to 2 and 3 para, and what did 2 para do, and what did 3 para do?
So obviously, all 3 battalions are the same, but now they do like a little bit of a selection process for 1 para. You have to be in, I think, a certain amount of time, and then you do a bit of a selection process.
Are they a bit fitter?
And then they have to pass the selection to go there. So I'm led to believe.
That's putting down 2 and 3 para. They're like a bunch of fat boys.
I know the fitness is still. Well, you know yourself, obviously, been going through PCOMI and that, and the fitness standards required.
Yeah, of course.
Them standards are the same. I think it's just an upskilling of stuff that's special for a different role.
It used to be. My dad was an ex-paratrooper. He was 3 para, and he used to tell me. I think it was 1 were the guards, 2 were the sportsmen, and 3 were the grungy ones. I don't know if I got that right.
Grungy 3 para, 3 were like the grunge. That's what they used to say anyway. Yeah, so, but that's how it kind of sort of. But when I came through Depot, everyone wanted to go to 2 para because it had was the most famous because of stuff that had happened in the past. I think it was 2 para that were a big part in Arnhem. Again, don't quote me. I'm not a massive historian, but so yeah, there was certain element. Everyone wanted to go to 2 para. Anyway, it's not all about the paras. Anyway, let's talk about you. Let's get back to what we came on for. I knew this had happened. I knew with both our brains would be off at a tangent before you knew it. Right.
Well,
so what I like to do
before you come on about ADHD, and I've not been diagnosed. Have you been diagnosed?
No, I went through all the rigmarole and did a load of questionnaires that the kind of GP that put my way, and I went through a bit of stuff with the fire service as well, and they all were pretty much 99.9%. So I never went down because it takes 2 years to get diagnosed. So I don't need a diagnosis.
I'm through that process, I don't need at the label myself. Did you say your boys are?
My lad is debatable, but he's got some traits.
I see that in my
believe,
children.
But it's undiagnosed. But
so when there's trouble at school, son, you can't say that joke. You're going to get back.
Yes, there is a severe lack of filter, which I also possess that trait as well. I have learned since doing the podcast to rein it in a little bit, just so I don't get kind of banned off every social media platform.
We were saying that, you're also a fireman, aren't you?
I am. I'm firefighting. I've been a firefighter for about 12 years, yeah.
But what I found, so long story short, you have to mind your airs and graces and learn how to speak yourself in a manner that's going to be attractive to everyone, especially with a podcast like this. I've had to learn this. I've had such a potty mouth, and the paratrooper mentality. It's like, yeah, gung ho, like whatever. We're warriors. We can do what we want, and you realise the rest of society doesn't quite like that. So you have to learn how to behave, so to speak.
The thing about paratroopers, well, any kind of infantry unit as well, you're taught to be this kind of soldier and everything else and be aggressive in battle and the conflicts that you go to. And then they kind of expect you to then switch off from that when you go out for a beer or when you're in the normal. Yeah. And it's difficult to do. People don't understand that. It's difficult to be in one theatre of operations to then 24 hours later being on leave and in a pub. Doesn't always kind of work out, does it?
So you can imagine I did Celebrity Big Brother. I was the lamb to the slaughter. Like, I'm going to say it like this. And that kind of vulnerability and innocence, although kind of saved me in one respect, but it's also really given me so many problems. I don't. What about you? Have you had problems with your potty mouth? Not potty mouth, but saying things that you go into subjects and my mind's going 1,000 miles an hour. Got to say this. Got to say that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I come away sometimes thinking, have I offended someone? Have I kind of upset someone? But 9 times out of 10, people know everything I do. I hopefully people realise comes from a good place. I'm not a nasty person in the slightest. I've got a good heart. So when I do say stuff,
you want some?
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's like if you can't, you kind of you kind of people know if they know you, in circles. If I'm in a circle of people that I don't particularly know or I'm unaware of, then I will kind of rein it in a bit. But when I'm with the people I know, they know who I am, they know what my sense of humour is like, etc.
Go back to Paris. How's your body? I'm bashed all over. I mean, I've done a lot of fighting, and you've done a lot of soldiering. You've been around the world doing all sorts of exciting gung ho things. How's your body now? You're 44 years young, yeah? I'm 40 something years young.
You've already said it. It's already out there, Alex. You know what I mean? You can't hide it now.
How's your body?
Yeah.
Do you have pain?
Yeah, I do. And I kind of carried on with the fitness. I boxed pretty much since the military until April this year on the unlicensed kind of boxing scene. So obviously nowhere near the kind of level of sort of, combat sports.
They're still very professional, even though there's not professional. How many fights you had?
Yeah. I had 14 over the years. Wow. I had about 3 or 4 white collar fights back before I got into it, and then I went into the unlicensed scene.
You're a fighter, a boxer, stylist, a counter.
More a windmiller, I think, is the correct term. No, I'm not particularly. I do spar very technically, and I'm quite good when I spar. But then I get drawn into a fight, and I just enjoy a bit of a tear up. And the beauty is, I've always had really, really good cardio in a weird kind of way.
You're that one.
Yeah, I can just keep going. And a lot of heavyweights on the unlicensed scene kind of be big lads that are a bit out of shape, but they can hit hard. So if you can... I'm about 17 stone at the minute. I cut around at 17 stone.
Have you got... Are you fat? Let's see your abs.
No, I haven't got no abs, but I've got some guns, look.
Get your kit off. Let's see what you're all about.
No, I did a proper nutritional plan quite recently, and I dropped down to about 15 stone 12. I had a proper 6-pack and that, but I've since been on a cruise that were in Judo. But yeah, what I wanted to do with the podcast, Alex, anyway, before we went off at a tangent, is what I'd like to do with all the guests is I get a bit of a background about them, where they grew up, what they were like as a kid, and kind of what led them down the road that they chose in life. So yeah, obviously you've touched on the fact. Was you born and bred in Aldershot?
Born and bred in the Louis Margaret. It's the Cambridge Hospital in Aldershot. I was indeed, yes.
So you touched on before, obviously, I didn't know that actually. I didn't know your dad was para reg and he was in 3 para. So growing up through school, was that something that you kind of wanted to pursue?
I never even knew my dad was a soldier. He was a hippie. He left the army. He did 3-4 years, fought in Cyprus in 1956 against the Yoka terrorists. And I've said this many times, I was in the loft as a young lad, about 12 years old, playing with my He-Man, Luke Skywalker, and I saw some pictures with Dad in a uniform. I thought it was fancy dress. I thought, what's that? Dad, Mum, what's Dad in the... Oh, he used to be a soldier. Did he? And I was like, wow, really? And he was a boxing champion, and he was like, my dad's a proper hero. He's a proper badass. Obviously, my dad was always kind. His number one attribute, I remember on his deathbed, was kindness. Just be kind. And he was so kind. And he became a pacifist when he left the army. So he never talked about what went on. Okay. And at my 40th, which was only last year, nearly 10 years ago, he was talking to a Marine I had who was a captain in the Marines, a friend of mine, and he'd seen lots of... They both started crying, recounting stories that had happened. Although my friend was like my age, they were talking about horrible things that had happened. And I'm like, really weird to see my dad start crying. At my 40s, because they were recounting things. They had a few drinks, but they weren't. But just, it's weird that Dad never shared what went on in the army. I remember asking him, did you kill anyone? He said, I don't know. I mean, and I can understand. Maybe he did. Maybe.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. I can edit.
Yeah. Am I still recording?
Yeah, you're back recording.
Yeah, okay. So Dad never really spoke about. He had the bravado about what went on in the paras, and it was like, yeah, I'm a paratrooper. He actually was the least paratrooper I knew in many respects. He was very, I imagine he was very proud that his son became a paratrooper, but at the same time, he didn't want me to go to war. He left the army, I know, because he had a young family. I wasn't born, but there's 6 of us, 6 mini Reids. Well, we're not mini anymore. And when you're a young dad with children fighting in conflicts, it's not conducive if you're thinking you want to be around. I get scared now. I mean, my friend got into some trouble. He got robbed, and you knew who robbed him about 2 months ago. And I got in the car and I just started driving to go and help him. And he'd been robbed, and I thought, what am I doing? These guys are definitely going to be tooled up. And I was like, I was all gung ho. I'm like, I'm a dad. I can't do this. This is number one. You could get in trouble, either way. Although I'm doing I'm like, just let it go. Let the police deal with it. And I think about being there for my children more than anything. That they're the most wonderful thing in the world. And I literally thank God, literally praise God, that the little monsters who drive me up the wall, they keep me here. They give me such purpose. As much as they need me, I need them. And I really realise that. They give me so much to live for, to be a better human being, and to see the world again through excitement, these little people's eyes. I mean, Christmas, I didn't like celebrating Christmas for so long, especially when Dad died. And there's some sadness. I can't go into too much regarding my family courts. That's all I'm going to say there. But because of the sadness due to the family courts and Dad dying, I've not wanted to celebrate Christmas. But now that I've got 3 little children, I've got 4. I've got a beautiful little girl called Dolly. I won't talk about her too much, but she lives with her mum. And I've got 3 little children who are so happy, and they bring me so much joy. Christmas is exciting again. The world is exciting. When you're driving, you remember you were a kid and your mum, I don't know if your mum did this, so look, there's a cow outside. Look, there's an aeroplane, there's a cloud. All of these wonderful little things that you just like, life becomes exciting again. It's wonderful. We just went to a school literally an hour ago to go and see, because it's getting to the point where Anastasia's going to have to go to school. And we're checking out. Mum's getting annoyed because I'm asking too many questions. I'm asking about, do they do this? Do they do that? The whole wokeness, I'm anti-woke. And the whole pronouns thing, I got in trouble for saying boys and girls the other day. And I'm like,
I know you said off here, yeah.
I don't mean to be. I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not righteous. Like, right, let's stamp out this pronoun woke, he, she, they sort of. But at the same time, we're from a generation where we get in trouble. We get cancelled just for opening our mouth. When I'm like, what can I say? I don't know what to say. I got told off for saying boys and girls.
Yeah, but it's not like you said. There's nothing vindictive behind it. It's just an easy mistake to make because you've grown up in a different era, and if you're of a certain age, it's difficult to kind of know what. Like you say, I agree with you totally. To say what is wrong or what is not without offending someone, and it's a minefield.
We're going to offend so many people just by being us. Because we're white supremacists. Just for I'm like, oh God, me, mate, I must be a racist or far right or anything because I look at this or I look at that. I'm just a normal human being who's grown up. I understand. Look, there's bad things that have gone on in history. Absolutely. I really think white Anglo-Saxons is not trying to be racist because there's lots of wonderful immigrants. Look, in Britain, it's made up of immigrants. Not talking about now.
A very diverse country.
From our history, we've been marauded by wars from Anglo-Saxons, Romans, Germans, French, Normans. We're a mishmash of everything. That's what makes us so diverse. But ultimately, we're a good country. We've abolished slavery. We're the first people to do that around the world. We've done so many great things. We've done lots of horrible things, but more importantly, I think we've led the way. The whole world's done horrible things, but I like to think we have actually led the way in reform for the way of the world. English. What do most people speak in the world? English. That might not that might sound like we've gone around conquering everyone, which we have, and we've done some nice things, but we've also done a lot to rectify that and to make the world a better place. So I'm proud
I
to
believe so,
be
yeah.
white and English. I don't want to be, what's the word? And it's not like I'm fighting. I'm white and English, standing with my Union Jack flag. No, but and I'm okay if you want to do that. But what I'm saying, I'm not going to be cancelled and be made to feel pushed down, you know, and ashamed. That's the most horrible thing, to be ashamed. I'm proud. That's the whole juxtaposition about
Yeah.
being a paratrooper, because like my dad, I'm a pacifist myself. I believe in a warrior class. I believe we need to have warriors that defend for freedom, because there's horrible people in the world, and sometimes those horrible people need to have a police. So who's going to do that? Someone's got to do that.
No, absolutely. There are people that need to that still step up and kind of defend the country, you know, with the military and things like that. And no, I know, I get what you're saying, and it's good that you should be proud of your heritage, and you should be proud of kind of what you believe in without fear of being one cancelled and one kind of told that your opinion's wrong. I'm a big believer in everyone's opinion's their own, as long as it's not in a vindictive way and you put it across in a kind of a nice
Yep.
demeanor, if that makes
Well,
sense.
totally. I can just tell by, and I don't know you, but just by talking to you for like 5 minutes, I can see you learn quite quickly as we get older. Well, some people don't. We repeat the same mistakes, but savvy people, that you seem very savvy, you get to read someone's vibe. I mean, I'm feel quite relaxed talking to you, and that's the best way to
Well,
be.
that is, you know what we talked about there. Kind of one of the things with ADHD is that you have a really, really good ability to read people. But the downside of that is you can suss out people quite quickly. But and the downside is with ADHD, it enables people to manipulate you quite easily. And I for one, don't believe or never believed that I was able to be manipulated because of what I've done in my history and the past employments. But it's almost a weakness with ADHD that people will manipulate you and exploit you. And I know you've had your trials and tribulations
Oh
over the
yeah.
way, and we talked before we kind of came on air about that. And I know you've been very vocal about it, and quite rightly so on other podcasts. But like we talked about before, is I feel like it's a bit of a negative thing, and I kind of want to spread, like we talked about, want to spread more positivity and everything else. So, but we will touch on it anyway. Going back to you growing up and everything else. So, obviously, you went through school fairly well behaved at school, or
I
kind
was
of disruptive or distracted easily.
complete dichotomy. I was the naughtiest kid, and I was always in detention. But then at the same time, I did really good things. The kids, the teachers didn't understand. You've been so good, you've done this, and then you went and go and ruined it all. I'd self-sabotage. I don't know what that's all about. So I was a good kid, good in my heart, but then occasionally I would do some extremely naughty things. Just wanted to rebel.
Yeah, but that is also a massive link that I'm seeing with a lot of power ridge blokes. They kind of like, again, hearts are in a good place, but concentration, easily distracted, up to mischief. And that is a common denominator with 99% of people that go down the military and the parachute regiment route. So you're not alone there.
Do you find the
But yeah,
same thing
because
then?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. With me at school, I was anyhow all over the place. I was suspended from school. I was kind of uh, in a fair amount of trouble with kind of the police as well, mainly for fighting. And I've been on a couple of podcasts telling my kind of stories, and it accumulated for me at 16 when I was glassed in the face, broken nose, fractured jaw, 17 stitches around my eye, and my old man gave me an ultimatum. He basically said, "You either join the army or I'm kicking you out." So, you know, a few days later, I was down at the Army Careers Office and off to join the Paras. So, yeah.
Were you
So, yeah,
scared?
it's a common
Were you scared?
of joining the Paras.
Yeah.
God, yeah, but I didn't know what was in for. I kind of had no real idea. I didn't know a lot about the Paras.
I mean, not so
I was going
much
to join.
the fact that it's the Paras. Oh, I mean, the Paras have got a bit of a reputation. They're badasses. They're like, I mean, we're both biased. They're the best regiment, bar none.
Absolutely.
Everyone else is a crap at, you know. Or there might
Yeah.
be a fit crap at, but it's still a crap at. But why I say that, the fact that you quite independent growing up? I mean, for me, I was mollycoddled. I was the baby, so I had everything given to me. So life, when I left the fold, was bloody difficult because all of a sudden you're not the baby anymore, and you've been treated like a baby. So you haven't. Life's quite hard, paying bills and all that sort of. How was that for you? I mean, a young 16-year-old going off away from your mum and dad.
Yeah, for me, because I was quite an independent, and I grew up in that generation of no social media, and so my parents never knew where I was out and everything else. And my old man ruled the house he was very strict, and I needed that as well. But
Ex-army?
it wasn't. No. I think he would have been, but he was medically kind of not able to join because he had a few problems with his feet. But my uncle was military, and my granddads were military, another uncle was military as well. So it was around in the family. But yeah, it was weird. I was kind of independent growing up, and I did my own thing, and
So it
I
wasn't that
never wanted
scary
to
leaving
be.
your mum and dad.
No, not really. I didn't. I wanted to be. I probably the same as you. I didn't want to be, and there's no disrespect to anyone that's gone into the building trade or that
Yeah,
goes to do 9 to 5 jobs.
yeah,
They're very important jobs and everything else. But I never wanted normality. I wanted to do
100%.
different.
What I'm like, people always say, "Oh, go join the army, get a trade." I'm like, why on earth would you want to go to the army and get a trade? Go and do that somewhere else. You go to the army to blow shit up and to jump out of airplanes and be the baddest hots on the planet and get a load of girls.
But yeah, but it was. You're right. I never wanted to go for the kind of building or trade. Looking back now, it might have been a good thing because it might have been something to move into when you leave. But I wanted to travel the world and go and be involved in conflicts. And I kind of knew through the limited research I did that the paras or the Marines were going to be
But the
that
what?
unit. But I made the correct decision,
Uh,
obviously. I didn't want to settle for second best. So
okay.
I'm actually on a podcast on the 7th of December next Saturday. There's me, a Royal Irish Ranger, and a bootneck all doing a joint kind of
Yeah.
podcast. So that'll be
They want a
interesting.
real man on the podcast. Look, I've got so many.
Real
My best
paratrooper.
mates are Marines. There's still that. There's so much respect, but there's still is that we're the best.
Absolutely.
You're the second best.
It's just the
I
banter.
used to run boot camps, so I'd only have PTIs who were paras or Marines, and it was always that banter. And then there's the other one was just this Rangers. What are they all about? Power Rangers.
Well, no, he's an Irish Ranger, so Royal Irish Regiment. But there is a Ranger
I
unit
know.
now that's kind of. I don't know a lot about them because it's way after I served, but I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of them.
For all
But I
my
think they
guys,
tried to go a little bit American, haven't they?
I think most people understand. I don't know if they do. General public. I mean, obviously, we know about all of the banter between Paras and the Marines and all of the crap hat stuff because that's what we're born and bred on. But do you think the general public knows the rivalry between the Paras and the Marines?
I don't know. I don't think the general kind of public do. It's probably the fiercest rivalry within the British kind of military.
Yeah.
And I think it's really healthy
Yeah,
to have that because it
100%.
makes them try and be better than us, and it makes us try and be better than them. And that kind of challenge and keeping up the ethos and all that is
We got a
I think
mutual
it's a good
mate,
thing.
Gaz,
Yeah,
ex-SBS, but he was a
that's right.
paratrooper.
He was a paratrooper and he decided to go down the SBS route.
So normally the Marines would go
After.
SBS, Special Boat Service, and Paras would go SAS. Would you say that was true?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, but it was, I think he was one of the first to do it. And that's his brain though. If you knew him, you'd understand why. I don't know whether now, no, I don't think he regrets it. I think he enjoyed his time. But yeah, it was an unusual decision to
I
make.
know you don't want to go talk too much about military stuff, but I mean, I'm still a geek and fascinated. I'm absolutely love studying military from the dawn of time when man picked up a rock and learnt how to throw it in a certain way. That's like a martial art. And if I throw it a bit more like this, to developing weapons but who do you think right now? I won't go on about this too long. Is the best fighting force in the world in terms of professionalism? I mean, I was always biased to the SAS. Do you think we are the best? I mean, but without trying to be
Yes.
biased, of course, it's difficult not to be because we're both British.
Well, I try not to,
What about
and I
OSAS? There's
always,
some badass
well, no,
Israeli forces. all around the world, different forces.
Absolutely, but I try and be kind of open-minded about all that and try and not be biased, but it's hard not to be when you hear sort of US kind of, where you gone? Back again. It's difficult not to be biased when you hear US forces talk on a lot of podcasts and say that when the SES walked in a room, they were in awe of this, and when they worked with them, they were amazed by their kind of.
I'm the SES, but what is it that we as the Brits do to make ours special forces so much more elite? I know the training that the government, let's not talk about the government, bloody government, but the training that we did, with the amount of money we'd spend on just average British soldier would far exceed any soldier around the world. You know, the amount of money we'd put into someone to make them the most specialist, all of the operating procedures on warfare, on how to fire a gun, on all of this stuff. So our technology and our operating procedures, I get that. I mean, and also let's look at it. I mean, Britain, we've been raped, marauded, and pillaged for millennium. You know, by all these different tribes, and we've amalgamated together to become a warrior fighting force. So I get that. But right now, we're in a bit of a poor state. Or are we?
Our military as a whole is obviously probably at the lowest figure it's been at ever, I believe. But as far as our special forces unit go, the training and the standards have always been there since it was created. And obviously we've trained a lot of special forces are spawned off the back of our special forces, Delta Force being one of them. That was kind of, we went over and trained the American units, became, you know, again, I'm only loosely with the facts, there's a lot more to it. It's not that, it's the British kind of stiff upper lip in the face of adversity.
Love it, yeah.
And that's been said of British soldiers in Afghanistan. When the chips are down, rounds are come wanging in, when there's chaos around them, they'll be there making a brew.
Yeah.
Asking, how many sugars do you want? 2 sugars?
Yeah.
And there's rounds winging around all over the place. So that's just the British kind of thing that kind of makes us the way we are, I think.
We're just about to go over the top, but look, yeah.
Exactly, you know, and that's it. And I think that kind of resonates through all arms of the British Army, and certainly from the top being the SES, you know.
Last question.
In my humble opinion.
Let's take that to a personal level. I've not seen action, thank goodness, as much as I wanted to when I was young, dumb, and full of something. But when, in hindsight, I'm very lucky that I didn't see action, because I see the PTSD that a lot of my friends who have seen action have. But I've been in some scary situations, and I'm like, you know, just the basic jumping out of aeroplanes is bloody scary. You're shitting yourself in the back of the plane, trying not to throw up, and like
100%.
Someone saying there may be trouble ahead, and like, don't sing that, but then you'll start singing it. Have you been in situations where you're like, you've had that army banter where like you're shitting yourself, but you're like, right, and a bit jovial and jokey?
Absolutely, you know, that kind of, and it kind of, that then moves on to the fire service now, you know, with house fires that we go into.
I bet you see some horrible things.
Well, you know, it's part and parcel of the job. And I've always obviously I'm a big advocate for kind of mental health awareness and getting people to speak out about things like that. But I'm also very, very kind of lucky in the fact that I've never really kind of had any struggles with it. But that's not to say they won't catch up with me in the future. So I do a lot of things to put in place to make sure that that doesn't happen to me, if that makes sense. But I'm very open about it. I'm always willing to talk about it. But yeah, I don't know. It's there is. You'll come out a house fire and you would have blistered the top of your helmet in some of these house fires because they've got that hot, or you burnt the top of your tabs and stuff like that. And then you'll come out and someone will be like, "What are you playing at?" I mean, I'd have knobbed that in in about half the time you would have done. And there's that banter and piss taking and everything else. And that goes right back from British Army to fire service. They're all the kind of same sort of stuff, and it's almost
ex-forces guys are in the fire service. Would you say, is it a strong crossover?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. You know, on my watch, there is another guy that was ex-RAF firefighter. That's just on my 7-person watch. So there's 2 of us that are ex-military on my watch. On my station, out of 26. Probably about 10 ex-military of varying different kind of units.
Are they all hats?
There is another. No, some are. Some they'll kill me for saying that. No, one of the lads on Blue Watch, the watch manager, he's ex-3 para.
I've got soldier friends I don't call hats, but I shouldn't have said that. It's a very derogatory word for them.
No, it's not. But people take that as like when you call them hats, and we know the background of why, because the parachute regiment are only one of the units. It's not actually that derogatory when you look at it. The reason we call all the rest of the units hats is because we're the only unit in the British Army, or we used to be. I'm not sure that's the case anymore. That wear that all the time and never wear a flat cap. So the rest of the army are called hats, because they wear their flat cap with the smart. When we wear a smart dress, we wear the belly.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason. And obviously the crap bits come in there as well, just as an extra thing. But I've worked with all sorts of units from all over the world. When I did work in Iraq, I have the utmost respect. And you get bad apples, you get good soldiers, you get bad soldiers in all units. Some of the worst soldiers I've ever met in my life have been ex-paratroopers. But I call them the pud paratroopers, you know, that gobbed off in a pub and that was pub paratroopers. So they were great in a pub, but you put them on an exercise on Salisbury Plain in February and they'd be like, you know, breaking straight of a wet, soggy Kit Kat.
Yeah.
So there is all them things. Anyway, how we got back onto me again? You stop asking me questions. It's me meant to be asking you questions.
I'm fascinated because I don't get to speak to many paratroopers. So it's interesting to see another interesting individual, how you actually survive in the real world. As you said, I'm lucky. I didn't see nasty stuff. I have seen nasty stuff.
But you would have been prepared to go anywhere they sent you in the time you served.
And it's like, I've got papers to go to Bosnia in '98. Serbia.
Well, that's it. And I always say, like, it doesn't matter when you serve, because you've got to remember, after 1982, obviously Northern Ireland was a bit, you know, nasty place and people went out there, but you could have served your whole 22 years thereabouts without getting sent to any conflict if you were just unlucky, or you had a post into depot, or you was an instructor in the depot at the time that they went to. So, but you would have been prepared, like any generation of paratrooper would have been, as you would have been being in Tempara. You'd have gone anywhere they'd have sent you and done the job as good as any paratrooper
do you know
in history.
why I left the army? Is because I didn't want to kill people. And I thought, this isn't... I'm starting to become political in my own mind, like what's right and wrong. I'm in a juxtapose now about what's going on in our world, especially in Britain. People don't want to fight for our country, because when you're seeing rich men get richer, I'm all for justice. And like I said, we need a warrior society. We need a warrior class, not society. We need strong people, like Jordan Peterson always says. To be truly peaceful, you need to be an absolute badass and then control it. We need badasses to be able to protect and police our society. I've gone off on a tangent. That's my ADHD. What was I saying?
This conversation, this podcast is going to be like 4 hours long of absolute just waffle at different angles. I mean, whose idea was it to put us two together on a podcast?
I just did a podcast with someone with ADHD. Oh my God, we went off all over the place.
It's good. It's good. Like I said to you when we started, it's unscripted, a minimal editing, because people hopefully will find this entertaining. It's legitimate chat between two, you know, nice people. So, you know, it's good that it goes off at tangents. But no, I agree with you. We do need people that are still going to step up and do what's needed for the country. You still need people in the military and everything else, even though wars are going to be fought potentially by drones and stuff. You know,
where do we stand at the moment? What are we fighting for? What? And that's why I left the army, because I thought, well, I don't believe this is just. But as a soldier, you don't get that. That's not your question. You're not allowed to have you're not allowed to think like that. You don't ask. But he's a kid, so if you've got to shoot him, you've got to shoot him. Obviously, if they're shooting at you, there's no question. But when you're going to get orders where you're going to have to kill people and do horrible things you don't want to do, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a place I want to be in. That's why I now seeing mental health in so many ex-soldiers who are good people, good human beings. They've seen things I'm not going to go into, and it's them or the other guy. You know, they've had to survive. They want to get home to their family, and they think they're doing something good for society. When you really question, my dad was a bit like this. Like he's seen war, and he's like, "Is it worth it? Was it all worth it?" It's easy. Obviously, there are wars that you have to have, unfortunately, because there are evil people. But when you start thinking like that too much, you don't necessarily want to be that person. Unfortunately, you don't always get the choice. When the bad guys come in, I'd rather be trained and have a gun and know how to use it and not have one and need it.
Yeah, well, there is, the weird bit is I've got a lot of friends. I served in Afghanistan as well, but I'm always dead honest about that. I didn't do the tours that were like the ones that they did sort of 2006. I was already working in Iraq by then. But the guys that went to Afghanistan, they said they loved it when they were there because it was carefree. Within they went out, they did as I told. They didn't have social media. They didn't have the stuff. It's all the stuff that you have with everyday life that gets to them and causes a lot of their problems. A lot of them will turn around and say to you that if they could go back to Afghanistan 2006, 2008, whenever they did their tours, they'd do it tomorrow. But they didn't do it for Queen or country. They did it for the person standing outside of them, to not let them down, to have that camaraderie and that brotherhood and that spirit. That's what they did it for. It was never about doing it for the government. They genuinely believed they were ridding the world of nasty people, and they were with it in the Taliban.
I believe that.
The government, all the hidden agendas that government has. I'm not a massive conspiracy theorist, but I have to be open-minded that it's not as cut and dried as the media want you to believe it, and that's with all things. I'm not going to go into it because it's an absolute minefield, but you know where I'm coming from.
100%.
But yeah,
what's your training routine these days? How did you train?
I can't do anything, mate. I used to be, honest to God, I was ridiculously fit. When I did anti-piracy on the ships, I trained 3 times a day. Pull-ups, boxing. I used to do like 5K round the oil tankers in the middle of the Indian Ocean in 40-degree heat, weighted pull-ups, you name it. I was fit as a butcher's dog.
So when you're on operation, you would do 1 second. I've got to shut that door. Give us a card. Give us a quick cuddle. Come on. Yeah, this is my gorgeous princess. Hello.
Hello.
We're on a podcast. Say hello.
Oh.
Look, he's got a paratrooper.
Oh, that's not a happy face.
Hello, this is Anastasia. Oh, what's the matter, Bubs?
Hello, Anastasia. You okay?
Hi. And there's Lola. Daddy's just.
Hello, Lola.
Daddy's just doing a bit of work, sweetheart. Go with Mum. Mum, can you come and get her? Why are you sad? Why? Don't want to grow big. She doesn't want to grow big.
No, I don't either.
Right, Bubba. The question I was asking, when you're on operation, or we always want to work out, you've got to stay fit. The cardio wasn't a problem. It was, you want to keep your muscle mass. So what sort of exercise, when you're on these oil rigs, did you not have fancy gyms?
No. But some had to. Well, I was on tankers when I was on ships. So a lot of the ships had, look, I make do with all sorts of pull-ups, press-ups. I used to do like 600-700 press-ups a day because there's not a lot to do. So I get on and do sets of 50.
How many push-ups could you do in one go?
I used to do sets of 50.
Wow.
Throughout the day. And then the joy is when I used to do the patrollers armed security round the bridge wings with the pull-up bars, they'd have a pull-up bar on each side of the wing. So I'd just do 10 pull-ups, do a bit of a patrol around to the other side over like 5 minutes, and then do another. And I'd spend 4 hours doing pull-ups. So
wow.
When I came back from working in the Middle East, I had all the fire service fitness tests and medicals and stuff. And I was absolutely tip-top. I got 14.8 on the bleep test.
Wow.
Which is pretty good. Bearing in mind that the pass mark's 8.9, I did all right, But what I've learned now, I still box a bit, I still spar from time to time, but I can't run anymore. I've torn hamstrings, I've torn my groin, I have repeated calf tears, I've got a serious problem with my shoulder from boxing.
How many pull-ups can you do in one go?
In one go, now at 17 stone. Last week I did 16 wide arm.
Oh, push-ups?
In one go. 90.
Wow, that's good.
Not bad. I keep on top of it. I try and keep it up. I've got fitter since I left the reg, strangely enough. I was always middle of the road. I used to struggle. I'm open about it because I'm a big lad. I used to struggle on a lot of the runs. But I got more into fitness when I left. But I'm more weights now. I do a lot of lifting. I've just come back from the gym this morning after doing like a chest session because I can't do the explosive stuff. I get injured. And that's through years of not doing the stretching meat and stuff like that.
I'm the same. Just you find that as we get older, we do less jumping around, explosive, which we need to still do. It just things where we would jump over a fence, no problem. At 20, you're like,
have to weigh it up now. Have to weigh up what injury it's going to cause me.
Use it or lose it. So the less we use it, I tried to run with my missus. My missus beat the hell out of me the other day. I was like, Yeah, I'm hobbling around. I'm the same.
I do a bit of running. Like I said, I've just come back off a Caribbean cruise, and they had like a running track on the top deck. So every morning I'd get up and do 21 laps, was 5k, but it was steady. It were about 31 minutes. But like I say, I'm not built for running. I'm 17 stone, so I did it steady. So I could do steady, but then I get competitive with myself, and then I'm like, I can get faster than that. I can do a better time, and then I start racing myself, and then I get injured, and some pretty big, not massive injuries, but like muscle tears, like grade 2 and grade 3, near enough full tears of muscles and
I
stuff.
don't
So,
think me or you have to ever worry about getting fat.
well,
Exercise.
I have yo-yoed me. I have yo-yoed up and down, and that's why I keep on top of it, because I have had times and periods through my late 20s where I got really out of shape and got really fat, and so
Drinking?
I'm now yeah, possibly quite a bit of drinking, just eating shit, and then I got a grip of it. And it's, do you know what the good thing is? My missus is 11 years younger than me. She's a firefighter as well.
Hang
She
on. They
really
say the
keeps
optimum
me in
age for a
touch.
man, Harvard studies, to stay together forever for longevity and health and all that. Half a man's age plus 7. How old's your missus? 11 years.
She's 32, so she's 11 years, 8 months. The 12 years was the cut-off.
Yeah. How long have you been married?
Right.
You married?
I'm not married, engaged, been together 4 years.
I've been with mine for 10. I'm not married
How old's your
either.
missus?
Sorry?
Is your missus younger than yourself? Yeah.
9 years. I tell her she's. I need to get a younger model. You've got to keep them on their toes.
It's good. You know what though? It's really good having a younger fiance wife, because she does keep me
Yeah,
youthful. We go out, she keeps me in the gym. And one thing I noticed, and I'm really open about this as well, when we first got together, I struggled with the age difference. I find it really, really difficult, because it wasn't now. I just keep thinking in the future, and that kind of, I don't want to be an old man, so I try my best to keep myself in the best possible shape, so
great.
I don't.
What a brilliant.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, brilliant. And you got 6-year-olds, and I'm really big in health and fitness and staying young and healthy. I've done lots of sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all that, and I've pushed my body to the absolute limit. I've done all the drugs, the recreational, all the performance enhancing, and now I'm all about longevity, because I have the most beautiful gift, these beautiful children. I want to be here for as long as possible, and
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
so I'm really careful about everything I put in my body. But you get, what I'm actually doing at the moment is trying to reverse my biological age with certain things like hyperbaric chambers, red light therapy, cold peptides, certain supplements, better food, fasting, all these different things, and I'm feeling healthier. I am feeling, and I want to be jumping around full of energy for my children. I just
Yeah,
want to live
100%.
forever.
I agree with you there, mate, and it's good. And I did recently been doing a lot of research into the links with sugar and dementia and
Worst,
cancer. So I've kind of started to cut a lot more sugar
it's
out
the worst drug,
of
and
my
I call it a
diet now.
drug because it changes your serotonin and dopamine. It's the most addictive substance on the planet. I wrote an article for the Huffington Post about sugar being much more dangerous than cocaine. Not advocating cocaine. You couldn't take as much cocaine as we take sugar every day. I mean,
Yeah,
what's
it's
this?
mental,
I'm
isn't it?
drinking a kombucha. This has probably got 5 grams of sugar in it. Imagine I did 5 grams of cocaine. My point. What you see, talking about drugs and alcohol and smoking, all these bad things. You see, like a 40-year-old who looks like they're a 70-year-old from their skin, and they're not 70. Maybe they look 10, 20 years older because they just not look after themselves. You see also 60-year-olds who look like they're 20. I'm seeing so many of these people now because they're looking after themselves. They're taking all the right supplements, eating right, they're exercising, not kill. And there's the difference between me and you. I don't know about you, but I've absolutely destroyed my body. Now I'm being kinder because
No, I have as well. I have as well. I've
running
done the same.
makes us
I've
older.
done.
Weirdly, running's not
I
good for
know.
us.
I
I
know.
try to walk now or hobble, less impact.
Yeah, I do. I do walk a lot more, and I was the same, mate. My mentality for years was eat what I want, but as long as I absolutely annihilate myself in the gym, I'll be all right. And now I'm kind of
Same.
suffering. I've got bad ankle. I've got this. I've got that. But it's not an excuse. I keep going. The key is not stopping. If you stop training, you know, in your 40s or in your 50s, it's harder to get started. If you've got arthritis, which most people have as you start to move into the 40s, if you've done high impact stuff, I've got arthritis in my ankles. If you stop, it seizes
Of
up. So just
course.
keep going. It's going to hurt. You're going to ache. But also, I've been doing a lot of research into TRT, testosterone replacement
I'm on that.
treatment.
I take that.
Are you on TRT?
I've
Are
been
you?
on it
What's
for about
your
10
kind of
years.
verdict on it?
But going back to the arthritis, I mean, I talk about it. We're all made of ions, electrons, neutrons, all vibrating at a certain frequency. And their energy, electricity, ki, chi, prana, life force, electricity flows through our whole body. And when you've got blockages because of overuse or not using it, that's where you get the atrophy and the age, and things like sugar absolutely destroy everything. They cause all the inflammation. So trying to get as much energy flowing through my body and being happy, all these different things, is the best way to stay young. Um, as I said, I take testosterone replacement therapy. I've done lots of steroids in my past, and I'm sure they probably had a terrible effect on my natural testosterone levels. So now I take an injection every 11 weeks by the NHS, and I get it all documented. So I've got this is someone who's done all the, yeah, look at me. Now I'm like, you might look good on the outside. Well, let's say in hindsight, I don't think I did. But you think about what's going on the inside. All of the horrible. Yeah, it's all very well looking great. Yeah, you're young, dumb, and full of something, but you can't even walk up a flight of stairs without getting out of breath. You know, and you're
Yeah.
sweating and
Well,
you
there is
smell
that.
and you've got pussy spots and you fart and you're like, not cool.
No, it's not cool. But there is big links. Like I know in the US they're big on TRT,
Do you take it?
testosterone replacement treatment. No, not yet, but I am doing a lot of research into it where I'm considering it. Well, I think I have high level. I am the hairiest man on the planet as well. I have to trim
Without
my
being
hair
crude.
all over.
And I'm not trying. Do you get morning erections, morning wood?
Yes,
So I say that because that's a really good sign of longevity and health and virility. So you look slightly fine. And do you take supplements?
I take creatine and I take kind of vitamins and stuff like that. And I do, since I've been with my partner Hannah, I do eat a lot healthy. She's a big advocate for healthy eating. So
Food is
like I
like
say, I did a
medicine.
proper nutrition plan. Yeah, I used a company called Team Freaks Nutrition. I like a lad called Scott Knowles, absolutely is a wizard when it comes to nutrition. And he did me a 16-week plan and I was down below 10% body fat at 15 stone 12. So you can imagine how kind of I looked at that. It was really, really good. So,
Ever done
I
juice?
kind of do. I have done in the past when I was in the military. Yeah, I'm quite open about that as well. And I'm not a big advocate for it because it does mess
How
things
did it
up.
affect your cardio? I didn't really do juice as a fighter. One, you get tested, drug tested. And two, it wasn't really conducive of being athletic. There are certain drugs like growth hormone and certain other drugs which are good for cutting a bit of weight here or there. But ultimately, it wasn't really heavy on the drugs myself. There's lots of great supplements. Taking loads of juice isn't really good for an athlete.
Well, I fell into that category of young person that just wanted like quick gains quickly without doing the work. And obviously, taking gear is the easiest way to do that without having to. You have to train, but you can,
Yeah,
it helps, doesn't it, rather than doing it
cool.
naturally. So I was only for like I think I did it while I was serving away in Northern Ireland, to be honest, for a short like a 4 month course. But I got really big, and I have the ability as well because of my body type. I'm like an endomorph, if you know the
Yeah,
difference between mesomorph,
yeah.
metamorph. So I'm an endomorph. So I've got like really big forearms and stuff like that. So I put on size really
Yeah.
quickly, and I'm naturally strong. So I think what's happened with me, I've always had a high level of testosterone, and it's not petered off. Whereas if some people you notice it peter off, or they've never had a high level, they may kind of, or if they've kind of messed it up by taking gear and stuff like that. But I'm an advocate for it, and when it starts to become an issue as I creep towards sort of my late phase, I will be seeing a doctor, getting my bloods done,
Highly
and if
recommend
they
it.
prescribe it, they
I highly
prescribe it. It's
recommend it.
good for mental health as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Libido, mental health, sex drive, the
And you
whole
look at what's going
caboodle.
on in the world. I'm big on this because I've got four beautiful children, and my first child I had when I was around 34, 35, and I thought I would have no problem having more children. Five, 9 years later, when I tried to have children again, all of a sudden my testosterone's all screwed up. My semen's pretty much non-existent. I only had 20,000 semen, which sounds like a lot, that's infertile. You're supposed to have like 20 million to be normal. I had 20,000. I started researching. I came off every single thing, stopped drinking coffee, stopped having saunas, and started praying, started looking at certain supplements. I'd be taking like Ayurvedic and Chinese supplements, which I thought would be good for my muscles, but they're terrible for my balls. So then when I actually realised, this Ayurvedic stuff they're pretty clever. They're almost more advanced thousands of years ago than we are today. And you see the racketeering of the food and drug and the drug administrations, how they want to make people ill. They make us all fat with bad food and bad diseases, and they pump us full of their drugs. Where there's all these fantastic herbs. Anyway, a long story short, I looked at what herbs I should take, and from 20,000 semen, 4 months later, I increased to 77 million. And the doctor at the Harley Street were like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I didn't go off their program because I thought that I've always I don't know if that's the ADHD thing or the autism thing, but I'm like, I go to a doctor and the doctor tells me what the problem is. And I'm like, well, doctor, I know I'm not an expert, but I've done a little bit of research, and in peer-reviewed studies all around, well, there's this, and this. Could you give me this drug, please? Well, Mr. Reid, all right. 9 times out of 10, the doctors have acquiesced and given me what I want because I've gone in there respectfully and I've thoroughly researched. I'm a geek. I need to know what's going on with my body. So I've gone off on a tangent then, but long story short, male's testosterone around the world is going down. Everywhere.
Yeah. But that'll be diet. But you can improve it naturally by going to a gym and by eating healthy and cutting out alcohol. Them 3 things alone will naturally increase your natural testosterone.
But of course. But anyway.
Right. Firstly, I want to talk about how you found P Company. I want to talk about how you got into MMA and your toughest fight and everything else. And I want to talk about how you dealt with Big Brother with, obviously recently finding out you kind of got autism and ADHD and stuff like that, and how the spotlight and everything else. So start off, how did you find P Company? I mean, we've only been on an hour, and that's usually about my second question. So we've done all right there.
Right, okay, so pre-parachute company, which is considered one of the hardest tests in the British Army. I had no choice. It wasn't a question of me not passing it, because it was ingrained in me, because my dad was a paratrooper. I was going to be a paratrooper. And I was in a bad way. I got sent home in the first P company because I sprained my ankle. And I quite badly. I had a splint on it. And then I was RTU'd, returned to unit for the second one 6 months later. And guess what? I sprained my ankle again. And I thought, it's now or never. So I put a splint on. I turned up on the first day in Catterick. Unfortunately, I was the first P company to go to Catterick, or the second P company.
Instead of Aldershot.
And I've done all my training in Aldershot. I was like, oh, man. Because they moved the... where they do the training. Anyway, so
the Catterick training area is still horrid though.
Yeah, I know that. I remember that. I was doing hypnosis continuously. I've always been big on hypnosis. I had a hypnotherapist. My pre-conditioned hypnotic response word for a post-hypnotic to become a super paratrooper was Pegasus. Pegasus, because obviously Pegasus is the what do you call it?
Emblem.
Pegasus is the emblem. When I say Pegasus, I become a superhero. I was doing Pegasus all the time. I was literally mad to become a paratrooper. And the craziest thing was, I did P Company in Catterick, and the first day walking with a splint, the medical officer says, "Son, what are you doing?" I was limping. "You better get back on the bus and go back home." "You can fuck off, sir. I'm fucking doing this." Normally, I would put you on guard duty and get you back. The fact that you've got the balls, I'm going to let you give it a go. And I did. But the only problem with that is I've been told I have a 90-year-old ankle now. So it's all very well being tough, but what goes up must come down. Also, on that, there was a whole lot of dysentery. There was food poisoning going around the camp. 17 of us, and in a P company, if 100 men, I don't know what it was, we were told on average, if 100 men do P company, it's about 30% pass, might be less. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah. I'd probably say depending. Yeah,
And
that's probably about right.
That's the people who actually get to P company, because you've got all the training before it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was fit. I was a fit guy, but I wasn't fit because of my ankle. And then we had 17 people had to go RTU because they all pooing themselves. I remember I was doing a battle march, and I was pooing all the way, all through it, down my trousers. That was horrible.
Nice.
I'd stop and I'd pull my pants down, just try and throw it all out. It's disgusting. And I was hallucinating. I was walking through the woods, doing an exercise, and I'd see like little bunny rabbits with glasses and suits on talking to me. This way, Alex. I had to lie to the drill instructors to say that I was all right, because I was floating around with the sky. It was all was going on. How I passed that, I don't. It's just, that's the power of your mind. And the hardest bit on that whole, I remember being on the stretcher race. The stretcher is horrible. It's
I concur.
How is it, about 3 miles?
The stretcher race historically is about 7. The stretcher race is 7 with a 15-stone stretcher.
Log race.
Oh, the log race is a different. The log race is, I think it's about 3 miles, yeah, with a telegraph pole. That is horrendous.
How many do you have on the log? Is it 4 or is it 8?
I think it depends on the size of your P company and your sections. I'm pretty certain you have 6, and then if you've got the numbers, you have one on the rear and one on the front with a rope tied round them. But usually 6, I think.
Yeah, we had 2 people come off.
Six.
So we were like, and I literally was crying. And I had a guy in the back of my head. One of the instructors came on our log, because we only had 3 of us in at one point. So there was 4 of us on a log. It should be 6. And we would just get falling. This guy behind me was punching me in the back of the head. Shut up, Reid. Man up, you pussy. That was, as barbaric as that sounds, I was actually really grateful to. I wasn't at the time, I would have beat him up. But I mean, I was crying and feeling a bit pussy. That tough love got me through it. So there is a time when you need to, like, have someone literally physically slap you. Because I was like, that.
No, there's no better motivator than that.
And I was like, Reid, man up, you pussy, punching me. I'm like, shut up, just keep going. I'm like, right, let's go.
So how old were you when you went through and you did it?
18.
Do you remember?
18.
She was 18, right? Yeah. So yeah, you wasn't too dissimilar for me. And I've always said, I think it's difficult when you're 17 or 16, 17 or 18 because you're not fully developed, are you?
You aren't. No, you're really not. I mean, I was super fit and cardio, but I mean, I was charged up on emotion. Absolutely. I mean, I was so doing so much hypnosis. I was literally walking around like this Pegasus power machine. I'm the superhero. The strangest thing though, I couldn't have been that disciplined, because every night I'd get pissed. Every single night. How stupid is that? You're doing one of the hardest tests in the army, and then at night you go to the bar and get pissed.
Well, that's the brain of a paratrooper, isn't it? It seems like the thing to do, doesn't it?
And you say, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that tomorrow. And next night, back in the bar. And we had 1 day off to relax in between. And I thought I'd go and get a massage. No, what did we go to the bar and get pissed? What an idiot.
Yeah. Well, that will certainly help with recovery.
Yeah.
But again, that's the reason. Now you wonder why you're knackered now. That's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's one of them. P company is for a lot of it. If you are super physically fit, you will get through it. But there's a lot of obstacles when it comes to injury. Most people, by the time they get there, are carrying injuries and are already struggling. So it becomes a mental game. Then, if you can get through it mentally, you'll get through it physically.
What are you like with heights? I hate heights. I'm scared of heights.
Never been bothered by heights, me. It's not something that's ever fazed me.
The trainasium wasn't a problem. The trainasium for those, it's like an assault course in the sky. It's not. You'd have to literally shuffle across bars, but if it was a foot off the ground, no problem, but it's about 30, 40 feet off the ground, so you've got something like an illusion jump. But when I did it in Catering, someone shuffled along the bars and a helicopter went by and blew him off, and he was hanging on. And I was the guy after him, and I was like, Reid, get up there. Yes, yeah.
You know what? The Trinasium actually made a lot of people come undone, you know, because you do it straight after the 10 miler. The 10 miler stops
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
Trinasium. You get it. So your legs, you're already on jelly legs because you've done a P Company 10 miler. For those people that are watching, P Company 10 miler is £5, weapon, water, helmet.
In under
Not
2
helmet, sorry.
hours, or was it an hour 40?
Well, 1 hour 50
Oh,
is
1
the
hour
cut-off
50.
time
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it. So if you think of the rest of the British military have to do an 8 miler in 2 hours, carrying less weight, and then obviously power.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. They had. I'm sitting here in Farnham, 5 minutes from Aldershot, home of the British Parachute Regiment. Last weekend, they had the 10 miler reunion that all the paras do every month, every year, and I didn't go and do it. I went out and had a drink down the Trafalgar pub, which is where everyone meets up now. But I don't think I could do a 10. I don't think I could do a 1.